Let's bring in Heritage Foundation Foreign Policy Vice President James Carafano. James, let's just walk the viewers through this. Here's what the French president said, quote, "Pushing Russia from Europe is a profound strategic error. It's not in our interest to be weak and guilty over this. We got to move on. The European continent will never be stable, will never be in security if we don't pacify and clarify our relations with Russia." Okay, your take on this, because, of course, Russia has been meddling. Its annexation of Crimea, all of those issues, Russia's interference. What do you think of the French president here pushing for this now?
Well, what it shows is Trump actually has had a very common framework for dealing with Russians with the Europeans, and we missed that because of the yelling and screaming and the hating Trump and everything. But the European position has always been, look, we have to demonstrate we can defend ourselves and stop Russian meddling and influence because it's destructive. But on the other hand, Russia's not leaving the continent. It's not going anywhere. If we're going to have a stable relationship, at some point we have to talk to them. And so in many ways, Trump has always had common cause with the Europeans. Here's my thing, though, is when he said we're going to invite these guys back, it's the yes, but. And that's the conversation that we haven't heard. Yeah, we want him to come back, but we haven't heard the but. What does he have to do that? And that's often like the part Trump leaves out. You know, for example, like, wouldn't they demand a commitment to recognize the Ukraine, to agree to the Minsk agreements, to follow through on there? Wouldn't they demand something from the Russians to do that, not just say, hey, I'll come back to the table, have a party? I think there's more to it than just that.
Understood. But your take on the French president undercutting what the Democrats and the media have been saying, attacking Trump here?
Well, but this is just kind of the silliness where we attack the Trump rhetoric we hate, and we make it sound, and we ignore all the other U.S. policy underneath that. But rhetoric and action matter, and you have to put them together. But what the critics do is they just want to focus on the opportunity to criticize Trump, and they don't want to look at the totality of American policy. American policy is tough on Russia.
And European policy. And European policy about bringing Russia back in. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, but we know at some point, if we're going to live together, we have to talk with the Russians. But first, the Russians have to respect the U.S. and they have to stop their meddling. And I think that'll always be a requirement for the Russians to get back into the G7. Right, and I'm sure the
president has already said that it was wrong for the Russians to meddle. Here's former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper on his take on why Trump wants Russia back in the G7. Let's watch this. I want your reaction.
Maybe he wants to curry his favor to ensure he gets help again in 2020, as he did in 2016 from the Russians. I don't know what it is.
Boy, James Clapper, now hold him back there. Your reaction.
Well, look, Clapper and Brennan are partisan hacks. I mean, that's just true. And the fact that they once held positions in government, they have no respect or integrity for those positions. They use those titles as to pretend that they have some kind of credibility. And then literally they're just partisan hacks attacking the administration. Look, I'm not partisan. You like the president, you don't like the president, that's your business. But let's not pretend that what people like Clapper and Brennan are delivering are objective analysis. They're just delivering partisan attacks. I mean, I think that's indisputable.
Yeah, I know that we had you on the show, James, and you've been very clear about what you agree with and don't agree with and dislike with the president's policies. I understand where you are coming from. I want to move on to President Trump and the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani talking to each other. Rouhani says no talks until sanctions are lifted. The news is that President Trump is making this gesture now, but Iran has not made any significant changes to its rhetoric, policy, or behavior. So the president won't lift the sanctions. How can this impasse be broken? How can it move forward?
Right. Yeah, look, I think the whole G7 on the Iran thing was a complete nothing burger. I mean, nothing really happened, and nobody changed their position. And people made a lot of things out of statements that was just completely meaningless. The U.S. position is completely unchanged. Unrestricted talks with Iran, dude, anytime you want to sit down and talk, we'll do that. But the sanctions aren't coming off until Iran starts to change its behavior or it agrees to a new deal. I think the Iranian position is crystal clear. They want to wait till after the elections and see if Trump is still there. If he's still there, then eventually they're going to have to do something because he's crippling their economy, and they can't go on like this forever. But they can tough it out another year and a half and hope that Trump's gone and somebody will come in and give him a sweetheart deal.
Yeah, but that's a heck of a gambit there to make. I mean, they're on the ropes. I hear what you're saying. I want to move on.
Hope is a plan.
President Trump says he will not make any money if the 2020 G7 summit is hosted at his Miami resort. Your take on this fight?
Well, look, the G7 is a talk fest, and it's good for these get together. I think we've been all through the legal issues on whether the president's profiting from office or not, and now we're just kind of recycling talking points and partisan points, and we're going to continue to do that through the election. I mean, unfortunately, we've kind of gotten a silly season early. Normally, all the hyper partisan rhetoric kicks off in January, but it's already started, and we're just going to live through it. And in many ways, I just think, look, the markets have to get over this, particularly on the China thing. Okay. And people say, well, who's winning here? I mean, it's like a poker game. Show me everybody's cards, and I'll tell you who's winning.
James Carafano, great to see you. Come back soon.